This is CBC Vancouver News.
That fire is lightning caused, and that is the trend we're currently seeing.
Heat warnings, tinder dry forests, and lightning in the forecast. The perfect storm to spark up BC's wildfire danger. Today, more evacuation alerts. Plus,
those shows created incredible amounts of spin-off benefits for the economy.
The CW wraps up its Arrowverse series, putting an end to a decade of production and jobs in BC, and leaving the local industry anxious about how that void will be filled. And
we're playing right now. This is Vancouver. Right after this, we go to Abbotsford.
A whirlwind tour to land them in the Guinness Book of World Records. We'll introduce you to the Kamloops Band, who's playing 9 concerts in 12 hours, and it's all for charity. Good evening, I'm Tanya Fletcher. After 5 days of silence, talks between the two sides in BC's port strike have finally resumed today as they met back at the bargaining table. The BC Maritime Employers Association put out a statement tonight saying it met with the International Longshore and Warehouse Union Canada and proposed a committee and independent arbitrator. The association says the arbitrator would make recommendations related to key sticking points around maintenance work. It's one of the key trouble spots for the union. The two sides met a day before the union is set to hold a rally in Vancouver in support of the 7,400 workers who walked off the job on Canada Day. Turning to northern BC now, there are new evacuation orders and alerts to tell you about tonight. Just a few hours ago, the Regional District of Bulkley-Nechako expanded an evacuation order and alert area for a wildfire just outside of Burns Lake. The order primarily covers a recreation site in a remote forested area. The alert includes 14 new properties. Officials say lightning strikes have been sparking up spot fires across the region all day, and it comes as heat warnings also blankets parts of the province. As Tom Popick reports, it is creating the perfect storm of ramped-up wildfire risk.
Sparked late Friday and quickly spreading overnight, the Powell Creek fire just 3 kilometers south of Smithers forced the evacuation of more than 50 properties. Town officials are now watching cautiously.
I think the response has been very good. There's lots of equipment moving. I can hear the planes flying behind me. I think, with the reception center and all the resources that have been applied, it's going as well as it could.
That fire is lightning caused, and that is the trend we're currently seeing. We had more than 7,000 lightning strikes across the province yesterday, and close to 3,000 of those were in the Northwest Fire Center alone.
The Bulkley-Nechako Regional District ordered smaller evacuations at the Tatlin Lake fire near Fraser Lake and the Parrot Lookout wildfire. Hundreds of homes are on alert. The BC Wildfire Service has categorized the blazes as wildfires of note. 6 now burn in BC, part of the 181 active fires in the province, with 115 still out of control. 72 fires have been sparked in just the last 24 hours. Environment Canada has issued severe thunderstorm watches in the region and is forecasting isolated storms through much of the province, even as hotter temperatures this weekend push fire hazard readings into extreme.
Overnight tonight, we can probably expect more lightning strikes, and crews will continue to address those as quickly as they can.
BC Wildfire says as this threat grows, fire resources will be spread more thinly. Many crews have already been deployed more than once. Fatigue is a concern through the summer and right now in Smithers.
Crews will be working hard,
fighting what may yet become the worst fire season in BC history. Tom Popick, CBC News, Kelowna.
And while BC fires threaten people's lives and homes, they also spike anxiety in the wine industry. Smoke settling on grapes can ruin a crop, but as Kurt Petrovich explains, if smoke-tainted fruit ends up in your wine, you probably won't see any mention of it on the label.
A winemaker's pride pours into your glass, but more frequent wildfires may be adding a flavor that's unwanted.
If your vineyard is in a valley and you've got forest fires that burn for days, that's when you're going to get the problem. The problem is smoke taint, and they don't know how to handle it.
Smoke molecules can pass through a grape's skin, binding chemically to the fruit's sugar, leaving a wine tasting bitter and ashy.
It's about mitigation and, not panicking. and just kind of dealing with it and deal with it as it comes.
Hall would know. His Okanagan vineyards were threatened by wildfire smoke in 2021, forcing him to use more gentle pressing, special filtering, and blending. At Blue Mountain, the smoke in 2021 was so bad they gave up on 120,000 liters, the entire vintage, and sold it to another company after filtering it. This wine writer says consumers are unlikely to ever learn what vintners do to remove smoke from wine just by reading the label.
It just is totally unlikely that that a winery would put something on the label which would discourage consumers not to buy it.
The BC Liquor Distribution Branch, which regulates wine quality in the province, won't say how much of a problem smoke taint is. In an email, the Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General told CBC News that generally, BC wine products have undergone a professional review for quality and flavor by a certified master of wines trained to detect issues with products. And if a customer is concerned about a potential quality issue, they can return it to the store to request a refund. But the off flavor can re-emerge in filtered wine years after it was bottled. So holding on to a bottle from a bad fire year like 2021 can be a gamble.
My suggestion to people is in the 21 vintage, why take a chance? Drink those wines when they're young and you can't taste it, because you never know.
Kurt Petrovich, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, Sikh activists rallied in Vancouver today, calling for an independent Sikh homeland separate from India. It comes almost 3 weeks after prominent Khalistan supporter Hardeep Singh Najar was gunned down outside his Gurdwara in Surrey. Protesters rallied outside the Indian consulate in Vancouver, calling for Canadian authorities to do more to investigate the shooting and protect Sikhs in this country. And as Ithil Musa tells us, some are concerned about the potential for further violence.
This protest is one of many happening in cities around the world Saturday in memory of Hardeep Singh Najar. The Sikh leader was shot to death last month outside a temple in Surrey, BC. Najar was a vocal supporter of Khalistan, an independent Sikh state in India, and organizers at this rally believe that played a role in his death.
We're here to make it clear to the Indian government, along with all its diplomats and representatives, that we understand that they had a hand in the brutal assassination by Hardeep Singh Najar.
There is no evidence India had a hand in Najar's death, and police in Canada say they have not found a link to the country in their investigation. Still, this caravan is traveling to the Consulate General of India in Toronto to protest his death.
He stood up as a loud voice, as a beacon of courage, when no one else was prepared to talk about Punjab's freedom.
Global Affairs Minister Melanie Joly expressed concern about the safety of India's top diplomats in Canada following their appearance on demonstration posters, referring to them as the faces of Najar's killers in Canada. In a tweet, she said in part, Canada remains in close contact with Indian officials in light of some of the promotional material circulating online regarding a protest planned for July 8th, which are unacceptable. CBC News reached out to the Indian High Commission in Ottawa for comment on the protests and the posters, but received no response. Sikhs for Justice, which organized Saturday's event and is behind a global referendum on Sikh separatism, claims the organization's actions are not about inciting violence.
India is not a person. India is a system. What we mean by kill India is that we are going to kill the Indian system that is responsible for the genocidal violence against the Sikh community.
India has long accused Canada of harboring Sikh extremists, but Ottawa says freedom of speech means groups can voice their political opinions as long as they don't use violence. Ithil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, BC's ambulance service admits it has work to do to heal its workplace culture. This after a scathing internal report with claims of harassment was made public.
We certainly see issues with culture, and it has traditionally at BCHS been a male-dominated profession. We're focusing on making sure that women and different cultures are feeling comfortable to join us.
1,900 BC EHS employees were surveyed about how they perceived their workplace. The results included allegations of inappropriate touching, derogatory comments, and dismissive handling of concerns. The review calls for urgent action to improve training and to stamp out harassment. After more than a decade of filming in Vancouver, the CW's Arrowverse TV series has wrapped up. The long-running production employed thousands of BC workers every year. Its ending, combined with the ongoing writers' strike, has halved the number of productions in this province compared to a year ago. Janella Hamilton now has more on the impact being felt by the local industry.
Don't you want to die holding them when the world ends?
Vancouver-born actor Osric Chow has played many different roles on the CW's Arrowverse television series. He credits the long-running franchise for kickstarting his career.
That became kind of the bedrock of my career, my circle of friends, like the ethos of everything I want to do and achieve. It kind of like really stems from what those shows kind of did.
Best known for his role as Kevin Tran on the CW's Supernatural, a show that filmed in the Lower Mainland for 15 years. He went on to play the role of Ryan Choi before suiting up as the superhero, the Atom.
Hey, nice threads. Thanks, man. We've had so many breakout stars that started their careers on these shows, you know, from Vancouver, from Canada.
It's not just the actors. The longevity of the Arrowverse series fueled the local industry and economy for years, hiring thousands of BC workers.
Those shows created incredible amounts of spin-off benefits for the economy and long-term jobs.
Until 2022, when the CW canceled or ended about 10 productions, many of which were filmed here in BC. CBC News reached out to the company to find out why the drop in productions. They did not respond by deadline. Add to that 11,000 Hollywood screenwriters walking off the job in May. Now the guild representing U.S. screen actors is preparing picket signs if a deal cannot be reached later this week.
A lot of the production here in BC is U.S. production, so if the American writers are on strike, it's having an impact on the shows.
The province's film and TV industry already experiencing a decrease in productions.
Let's say we have somewhere from 10 to 15 shows at some level of production right now. Normally this time of year, it could be anywhere from 30 to 40. So obviously there's a slowdown. Obviously there's, people are concerned. They don't know where they're going to go next.
I'm curious to see what kind of productions will fill in the gaps left.
He hopes it means more Canadian shows and films will be able to fill that void. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
A group of unionized staff at Granville Island Brewing began their strike today after negotiations with the employer broke down last week.
We believe that workers deserve to be paid fair wages for the area they live in. We're looking to be able to pay rent, pay for food, pay our bills and all of that, and not then have $0 at the end of the month and basically do it all over again. We want to be able to save our money and look forward to having a future at some point.
Workers say they need a reasonable wage increase that reflects the rising cost of living. They say they're also trying to protect jobs by stopping the company from hiring lower-wage temp workers. The current agreement expired at the end of May, and negotiations quickly reached an impasse on the issue of pay. Granville Island Brewing is owned by Molson Coors Beverage Company through one of its arms, 6 Pints Collective. In a statement, the company says it's doing everything to get a deal done, including offering raises on top of current pay. They say they decided to temporarily close the site, but there will be no disruption of supply of Granville Island beers. Well, 9 concerts in 12 hours. A Kamloops band called Loops is attempting to set a Guinness World Record for the most concerts performed in a 12-hour period, and also to help a good cause at the same time. We caught up with them a little earlier today in the middle of their tour.
Hey guys. Hey.
I'm Kevin Roy, and that's John Fennell. We are Loops. Big L, 2 small O's, a big P, and a big S, because we use loop pedals. we're stoked. We have tons of energy. Everyone's been so amazing supporting us and helping out and putting money towards the hospital.
It's been an absolute amazing response that we've had from everybody and the community helping us out. We're super excited for the rest of the day. All the other locations that we're going to be hitting up, we've already got a lot of word from people out there who are excited and eager to be there. So if you aren't already, please come on out. It's going to be an awesome, awesome show.
I want you guys to sing along with me on this one. Should we get down, good Lord, baby got you moving all over town.
I was in Squamish. We're playing right now. This is Vancouver. Right after this, we go to Abbotsford. And for all the rest of the locations, check out our social media. You just type Loops into Instagram, official_Loops. You can find everything, and you can donate there. Run!
And gardeners in BC Southeast are celebrating a milestone this weekend. The Cranbrook Garden Club is marking 25 years of its Open Garden Day event. And as Corey Bullock tells us, it's a long-standing tradition to share knowledge and natural beauty.
So this is my perennial border, and I have an awful lot of plants.
25 years ago, Jenny Humphrey began Open Garden Day in Cranbrook with a group of other gardeners.
It began with like 26 people, and we used to meet in the little library that doesn't exist anymore.
Since then, the Cranbrook Garden Club has grown to more than 300 members.
I love talking to other gardeners. It's always rewarding. But in gardening, you're really your own critic for a lot of the time. So it's really lovely to have people come and say, how did you do this? Or I'm not sure I'd do it that way. I would do it this way. Or what's that plant?
Humphrey's garden is one of 6 on display this year, along with Doug Lowe's.
Truly amazing. Love them. Just love them. It's important for people to take some pride in what they have and show it off.
Each garden is different and unique. Hosts prepare for months, sometimes years, for the event.
It is nerve-wracking a bit for the host, but it's also very, very rewarding.
Cranbrook's public produce garden is also on display for the first time since it opened back in 2012.
It promotes the garden, but more than that, hopefully it encourages, inspires, informs people.
There are many benefits that come from gardening, from providing pollination for the bees to feeding the community, and both physical and mental health.
It really does help people reconnect to nature, to the ground, and that's why we talk about growing food, growing gardeners, and growing community, because community is mental health.
And other gardeners, like Humphrey, agree.
It's a huge escape, and there's nothing like getting your fingers in the dirt.
Cranbrook's Open Garden Day runs from 10 to 3:30 on Sunday, July 9th. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
Still ahead, this retired jet is on the move from CFB Comox to North Saanich. We'll tell you why after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, it's called a Starfighter, and during the Cold War, it served Canadian forces in Europe. Since being retired, the plane has called CFB Comox home. But this weekend, the vintage jet made its way south to North Saanich. Take a look.
We're witnessing the arrival of the CF104 Starfighter from the Air Force Museum in Comox. And also what's happened is that we've invited all former CF104 Starfighter pilots to come out and have a bit of a mini reunion here. This aircraft is iconic. It was probably the premier Cold War fighter in the 60s and 70s. It's like a Lamborghini. It was a very, very fast, very effective aircraft in its day. The aircraft has been sitting outside for over 30 years, and it's in pretty poor shape, so we're going to have to refurbish it, strip it down, polish it all up, and hopefully within X number of months, it'll be on display in its shiny new condition.
I was one of the last pilots to fly the Starfighter. I flew in Canada's last two Starfighter squadrons, 439 and 441 tactical fighter squadrons over in Baden-Solingen, West Germany. So I've got about 700 hours on the airplane. I flew this actual airplane. So we did the full gamut of mission profiles that we had with the Starfighter. So starting off with initially from 1962 through until the end of 1971, it was low-level, high-speed nuclear strike and photo reconnaissance as well. There were three different types of nuclear weapons we carried. It was roughly about a 2,000-pound weapon that sat on the center line of the aircraft. And then after that, we switched to conventional weapons. There's nothing like flying a 104. You can talk to any fighter pilot in the world, and they would love to fly this airplane. It was so fast. Nothing would catch it low level. Cockpit, you're really strapping on the airplane. When you strap in and you take a look in that cockpit, it is very confined. And you know that, which is fine, you get used to it. But you're flying with a stick, and because it was a D when we were doing our attacks, we're flying with one hand, we set our throttle to set for 540 knot ground speed, and then we got a map in our hand. We're actually map reading as we go along to our targets, and looking out for enemy aircraft as well. So it was, you know, it took a lot of practice, a lot of training, but we were really well trained, and we were very confident in our mission. Yeah. It's a very serious business, and we all took it very, very seriously. And it was one of those things that you had to be ready to use, but you never wanted to use it. And thank goodness we never did, you know. But it was that deterrent force that actually won the Cold War for the West.
And you're looking at a live shot of White Rock, the promenade there, the pier in the background. Currently 16 degrees under a mainly clear sky on the waterfront there. And it was a pretty perfect weekend weather-wise across the south coast. So how long before it all changes? I'll time out your 5-day forecast coming up next. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
The 15th annual Latincouver Festival continues to July 20th, and CBC Vancouver is proud to be the exclusive media partner. Enjoy a series of sensational Latin American experiences and the popular Carnaval del Sol Festival. And the Herb Original is a new CBC British Columbia podcast. Stream it today on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's take a look at the 5-day forecast. We'll start with that radar looking ahead Saturday night into Sunday. So we can see there'll be some pockets of precipitation, really spotty showers, as that low pressure system that was just basically covering northern BC with some cooler temperatures here and there really moves east across the Rockies into Alberta. We do have some heat warnings to tell you about. Williams Lake and Kelowna both covered by a heat warning. That means we're seeing about 10 degrees warmer than normal. And Prince George has a severe thunderstorm watch in effect, as well as a special air quality statement because of the wildfire smoke. Here's a look at how that translates temperature-wise across BC tomorrow. Still quite seasonal for many areas, but look at this chance of lightning. Those are the thunderstorms, those scattered showers, those pockets of precipitation that could cause those lightning strikes to spark up again. So definitely a danger we'll be watching for. Here's the 5-day forecast for Metro Vancouver. Almost bang on seasonal. We're maybe a degree or two warmer, but otherwise right where we should be for this time of year. And that is your late news for this Saturday. For news anytime, you can always head to cbc.ca/BC. Your next local newscast is on CBC Radio 1 starting tomorrow morning at 6:30. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.